The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. On this January the 2nd, 2026. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope the year has started amazingly well for you guys. It did for me, thanks to you. I mean, you guys were amazing New Year's Eve. That show just blew everything out of the water. It was the single most we've ever raised in on a show. December was the biggest month we've ever had from a super chat perspective. So you guys were fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you to everybody who participated. We exceeded 16,000 on super chat. There was another like 6,000 in PayPal, and yeah, it was phenomenal. So really, really appreciate the support and the confidence of you guys, and let's make 2026 even a better year. Even a better year. It turned out 2024 was actually a better year overall for Super Chat. We had some weak months during 2025, so even though we had the best month ever was December, we had some earlier weaker months. So let's make 2026 for sure, in a big way, like the best year ever. To do that, we have to make our hourly goals, 250. If we make those 250 every time we do it, as we cross into the second hour, we get to 500 and so on, then we will, and have a great New Year's Eve, then we will break the records. So let's keep it going. Not inflation adjusted, absolute dollars. I don't have the energy to CPI adjust these numbers. It ain't worth it. We're still true to 2024, exceeded 2023, even non-inflation adjusted. So we need to make 2026 better than 2024, not by a lot, by $4,000. So we need $4,000 after YouTube takes its cut. So we need to make an exerted effort. I think it was all the traveling. All right. Anyway. That was amazing. Thank you. You guys were phenomenal. I did want to mention a number of you sent questions in through PayPal, which I was going to answer, and I just forgot. So I apologize. I had them all ready, but I just got caught up in the whole atmosphere of the show and answering questions from the super chat and super chat thing and the whole thing, that I basically forgot the questions from PayPal. So I will be answering them today. So they will be the first questions answered today. I know there was even one question from Dan that was actually posted for Nikos way before the show even started. And this is what happens if you post on the chat things like more than half an hour before the show starts. By the time I start the show, those disappear and I can't see them, and so I don't have access to them, so I don't know. So make sure to only post questions in the last half hour before the show or during the show itself, so we'll get to that question as well. I'll answer it instead of Nikos, and then next time Nikos is here, we'll try to get him to answer it as well. I think we're good. I'll just mention tomorrow there will be a show. Saturday there will be a show. I'm not sure what it'll be, to be determined. I will be doing reviews of two movies tomorrow. Ford versus Ferrari, and God, what was the name of the other movie? And the other movie's name was Better Man. So those two movies I will be reviewing. I actually have to say I like them both. So two positive reviews. I don't think I've ever done that. So stay tuned for those tomorrow. And then a week from tomorrow, I'll be reviewing the book, Ride the Tiger by Evola. So if Ali is out there, I'll be doing his review on Evola's Ride the Tiger. And the Saturday after that, I'll do the last short story from the book, Forks in the Road. And I'll try, while I'm doing those, to also include some of the songs you sent me. It'll probably take me longer to do the book review that Doug asked me to do, but song reviews I can probably do fairly easily. All right, let's jump in. Midnight, December 31st, midnight, January 1st, Mamdani was sworn in as mayor of New York. He is one of the youngest mayors, at least the youngest mayor in many, many decades. He is the first Muslim mayor of New York and the first Indian, I guess, or Southern Asian to be mayor of New York. And he is certainly the first, and most importantly, much more important than all those other things, much more important, overriding all those other things. Mamdani is the first socialist mayor of New York. And he wanted to make very clear in a speech when he took office that he was serious about his socialism. That this was not just a marketing ploy. This was not just a gimmick. This was not just principles that he had no plan to abide by, but that he was going to govern as a socialist. I mean, to the extent that you can, as mayor, right? There's only so many powers you have. But as mayor, that he was going to govern as a democratic socialist, that he is committed. Indeed, he articulated in one sentence one of the most striking, horrific, scary statements anybody's ever made, straight out of the Villains of Atlas Shrugged, straight out of the Villains of Ayn Rand. He declared during his speech, he said, we will replace the frigidity, coldness, frigidity. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Now, there are lots of commentary online about what that warmth of collectivism looks like. Maybe it looks like the darkness at night in North Korea. Maybe it looks like the long lines in the unbelievable frigid cold of Moscow for bread. Maybe it looks like the warmth experienced by the prisoners or the prisoners in the gulags in Siberia as they huddle together to try to keep a little warm. They were going to die anyway. Pretty quickly. Maybe it's the warmth that those Nazis experienced. Collectivism, he said, not socialism. Collectivism is just as much a fascist trait as it is just as much a right-wing trait as it is a left-wing trait. Collectivism of those Nazi troops as they marched into Poland or surrounded Stalingrad or just died in huge numbers on the east and western fronts of World War II. I mean, there's a whole thing I should do at some point about all this Hitler worship. I mean, has there ever been a bigger loser in history than Hitler? I mean, he lost, and he got more people killed than almost anybody, and they were mostly non-Jews. I mean, he got more Germans killed than anybody, and he destroyed Germany, obliterated it. I mean, has there ever been a bigger loser and a bigger idiot who made so many blatant, unbelievable strategic mistakes opening an Eastern Front when we haven't finished the Western Front? And you could go on and on and on. Has there ever been anybody quite as bad as he is? And yet people worship. Anyway, that's taking us off topic. We're talking about the guy who worships, socialism. Socialism, a system that is brought poverty, destruction, death, starvation to more people than any other political system in probably human history. I think at the end of the day, feudalism was probably more sustainable than socialism when taken seriously. So yes, no accident that other people speaking at his swearing-in ceremony, Bernie Sanders, another Democratic socialist, who would like to bring socialism to America, and AOC, who is, I think, running for president. We'll see, and I don't think AOC is a socialist because I don't think she's particularly intellectual. Versus Mamdani, I think is quite intellectual and quite serious about his socialism. I'm not sure about AOC, but clearly aligned with his agenda, clearly aligned with everything that he believes out there. It's really interesting to see people responding to this line from Mamdani about individualism and collectivism, right? Some people are getting it and putting up quotes by Ayn Rand, videos of Ayn Rand, clearly pointing to Ayn Rand as an example. Others are putting, again, pictures of the consequences of socialism in various parts of the world and how much warmth that has brought its people. So there's a variety of different responses out there. Many of them, pretty good about it. But there is, there is also a lot of people who are confused by it because ultimately they kind of agree. Even Tom Borelli, I haven't seen Tom Borelli in years and years and years. Tom Borelli, a conservative, I guess, commentator out there who attended my leadership courses that I gave at Hutchinson Technologies 20 years ago, and so got the whole morality of capitalism from me, ethics. I mean, days and days of content. He and his wife attended those. Tom, but I haven't seen him in a very long time. Anyway, Tom posted a quote from Ayn Rand. In any compromise between good and evil, it is only evil that can profit. A quote from Atlas Shrugged, and he's got the cover of Atlas Shrugged out there, and he is CCing on the tweet both Bill Ackerman, who wants to compromise, of course, and Mamdani. So you get a whole variety of stuff. But what you see is also, like, the conservatives don't know exactly what to do about this statement about collectivism and individualism, because they kind of agree with Mamdani, but really. So Tim Carney from the Institute for Economic Affairs. So somebody who writes, a conservative who writes for the American Enterprise Institute. Did I say Institute for Economic Affairs? That's in London. I meant the American Enterprise Institute. He writes for the American Enterprise Institute. He's a senior economist there. And this is what he writes in a tweet after the quote from Mamdani. He says, guys, Mamdani accepted Ayn Rand's false dichotomy between collectivism and individualism. We should reject this premise. There is another way. So his problem is, it's not individualism versus collectivism. The other way is a unity, a compromise, a merger, we need to be collectivist in some things in life and maybe individualist in others, and oh God. Collectivism is the placement of the individual above, the placement of the collective above the individual. It is the doctrine that says that one should live for the sake of the collective. Individualism is the position that the individual is an end in herself. The individual his life is sacred. That it is, that we establish governments and we live in a society so that individuals can benefit. And therefore, the role of government is to protect individual rights. That doesn't mean we don't, we don't have groups, and we don't hang out in groups, and we don't care about groups or teams or our friends or our, even our neighborhood. But it means that we don't sacrifice for their sake, and we don't give up our rights. We don't give up our lives for the sake of the group, for the sake of the collective. Another way other than individual collectivism is what? How? It's the mixed economy. It's the mixed morality. Yeah, you should probably take care of yourself, but really to be good is to sacrifice. But we can't sacrifice all the time. You have to live a little. So you should enjoy life, and you should pursue money, and you should do that, but not too much. Don't forget, at the end of the day, you've got to do some sacrificing. So, carve out a period every week to do the sacrificing, and then the rest you can be somewhat selfish. That mixed economy of the soul is what destroys individual human beings. It destroys ability to live fully. And it destroys ability to defend capitalism, political liberty, and it's what makes possible the rise of socialism. Because Tom Borelli is absolutely right when he quotes Ayn Rand and saying, "An aiming compromise between good, individualism, and evil, collectivism, it is only evil, collectivism, that can profit." The mixed economy is a compromise. And as such, only collectivism, only altruism will benefit. Altruism, collectivism is winning because too many people are willing to compromise. Lauren Chen, the right-wing Lauren Chen, she is not about compromising. Here's what she had to write about Mamdani's statement. "My unpopular opinion is that extreme individualism kills societies too. It just takes longer. Boomers not caring about their kids, grandkids, and importing infinity migrants. Millennials not having children at all. These are civilization-ending problems we have no idea how to fix. And of course, they're all caused. Not caring about your kids or grandkids is definitely caused by too much individualism. I mean, if kids or grandkids are of value, then you should care about them. If they're not of value, then you shouldn't care about them. But for most people, they're of value. That's why most people care about their kids and grandkids. I don't know what boomers don't care about their kids and grandkids. And it's not out of being selfish. And millennials not having children, well, maybe that's a consequence of individualism. That's good. Maybe not having kids is okay. Maybe not having kids is okay. Find a new equilibrium. All right. So, yeah, some people on the right are a little uncomfortable because they find themselves agreeing with Mamdani. Kind of collectivism is good. I mean, what is nationalism? What is nationalism? Christian nationalism, conservative nationalism, national conservatism, whatever. Nationalism. What is it if not collectivism? It's a type of collectivism. What are the groypers? What is racism if not collectivism? What is tribalism of all its kind if not collectivism? I mean, I think that Mamdani is channeling the zeitgeist of the moment, left and right. Get rid of that rugged individualism. That leads to capitalism. And that leads to immigration. Oh my God. That leads to, globalization. Oh my God. Globalism. We don't want any of that individualism. Get rid of that. That leads to people pursuing their own profit motive. That leads to companies pursuing shareholder wealth. We can't have any of that. The left and the right agree on this. They agree on it. So let's get rid of that rugged individualism. Let's embrace collectivism, the warmth of collectivism, the beauty of collectivism, the death, destruction, starvation, and horror of collectivism. So, yeah, we still find that the one thing under attack without any question the one thing under attack is individualism. The good is under attack. They're united against the good. And really, united for collectivism, they just disagree. And this is how wars get started. If you read Ayn Rand's The Roots of War, this is how war gets started, is what they disagree about is which collective should be, which collective should be the focal point of our sacrifice. Who should be the beneficiary of our sacrifice? Should it be the race, the ethnicity? Should it be the proletarian or the poor? Should it be politicians? Who is the beneficiary of our sacrifice? They all agree, all of them, left, right, and to some extent center, all agree. You need to be sacrificed. What they disagree about is to whom? To whom? And this is where we, as advocates of individualism, as philosophical, moral advocates for individualism, we differentiate ourselves from left and right. We differentiate ourselves from the entire political spectrum. We believe nobody should be sacrificed. That sacrifice is wrong. Sacrifice is evil. And that the only role of government is to protect your freedom, to protect your ability to live in pursuit of your own values, using your own mind. Objectivism rejects, all. What is going on here? 1 second. Start. All forms of collectivism. In the name of an ideal, not some horrible thing that people don't like, an ideal of individualism. Individualism does not mean living on a desert island. Individualism does not mean not caring about other people. Caring about other people is important because other people are traders with you. It depends on which people and under what circumstances. It holds you should never sacrifice for those people. You should trade with them. And it holds again that the role of government is to protect your rights, not to impose sacrifice on you. So, yeah, I mean, nobody completely understands the statement of Mamdani's other than really, if you've read Ayn Rand and you understand what individualism really means. So, you know, this idea that the egalitarianism of collectivism, you know, one of the most evil ideas. Now, somebody is saying here, the quote I have is frigidity of rugged individualism. Carl says it's fragility. So somebody mistyped it when they wrote it down. Let me see if I can find another quote from his speech. I've got a frigidity, not fragility. But frigidity. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with a warmth. I mean, frigidity makes sense, coldness, versus warmth of collectivism. Fragility is fine. All of them are, you know, it's the same, evil, wrong, and what every collectivist, i.e. every socialist, communist, fascist, Peronist, authoritarian in history. They never say, we're doing this so you can sacrifice, to that group. They say, it's going to be good. It's going to be, you know, we'll kill that group, but we are going to feel warm. We're going to feel all warm and fuzzy inside. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. I like number says it is frigidity. I think it is frigidity, not fragility. Anyway, Carl, you'll get it right. Anyway, Mamdani has come into office, ready to go. On day one, he is tackling the housing crisis. And this is the thing with Mamdani. It's one step forward, two steps back with him. But he does take a step forward. I'll give him credit for that. But it is pretty horrific. So he started out the day with executive orders relating to the housing crisis. And the first one, and I think the main one, the one that's actually actionable immediately, is one where he is going to protect the tenants from evil, greedy, rugged, individualistic landlords. So he's re-established and revitalizing the mayor's office to protect tenants. That's the name of the office. He's getting involved in a number of different cases that have to do with tenants going after landlords, a big bankruptcy case of landlords. The city is now going to be heavily involved in regulating landlords, whether they renovate their apartments on a regular basis or not. Even if the rents are too low to justify the renovation, it doesn't matter, too low, because rent control. Remember, rent control. He is going to immediately start harassing landlords. There's a big bankruptcy case in New York affecting 93 different buildings. The city now is going to interject into that case and make sure whoever buys those buildings out of bankruptcy is committed to residents. He's talking about bad landlords who don't make repairs and don't solve issues like cockroaches and lack of heating and things like that. So he's going to be in the face of landlords. He has made that a big agenda item. I think over time, what's going to happen is more and more landlords are going to go into bankruptcy. And I wouldn't be surprised if the city of New York becomes a bigger and bigger landlord, over time. So you could see socialism manifesting here in the city owning more of these. And then the city will have to figure out how to pay for renovations and keeping up the heat and dealing with cockroaches and all of that when they can't raise the rent because their own rent control is imposed. I guess they can raise taxes and redistribute wealth that way from some to others. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see that. The mayor made this announcement about these executive orders around housing at a property called 85 Clarkson Avenue, which is a rent-stabilizing building, rent-controlled in other words, which is owned by a company called Pinnacle Realty, which the mayor described as a notorious landlord. So you can expect significant deterioration in the quality of housing in New York. I would also expect a significant deterioration in both the quality and the quantity of housing, and therefore prices to go up in the non rent control parts of the city. The more expensive you make it to landlords to make repairs and to manage buildings, the less likely they are to manage buildings. We know a lot of landlords in New York basically are sitting on empty apartments and just not renting them out because the cost of renting them out is higher than having them sit there empty. It's going to be interesting to see if, for example, he tries to pass a law that forces them to rent out their empty properties, and whether that will be upheld by the courts. And if it is upheld by the courts, or if it's not upheld by the courts, whether then the city just takes over those properties from the greedy landlords who won't rent them out and lose money while they're renting them out. And let's see. The other two executive orders were actually maybe potentially positive, but we won't know for months. One is the creation of something called the LIFT Task Force, the Land Inventory Fast Track. This is going to leverage city-owned land to accelerate housing development, thus increasing supply to drive down costs. The task force will review city-owned properties and identify sites suitable for housing development. They'll do this no later than July 1, 2026, so within 6 months we'll know. LIFT will be overseen by Deputy Mayor Leila Bozog, who is anyway. So that's one, review land that the city owns that could be turned into housing. That's a positive. Of course, the solution is to sell that land to private developers. We'll see what the city actually tries to do with it. It's not clear, but that is a positive move that might offset some of the damage he's doing elsewhere. And then the third one is called the SPEED Task Force, another positive one. SPEED stands for Streamlining Procedure to Expedite Equitable Development. Everybody should worry about equitable development. What does that mean? Who defines equitable? What does equitable actually mean? Does it mean bad development? Does it mean development of the same types of house? I don't know. Of course, it's ripe for corruption and distortion, and again, it's streamlining procedures good, equitable, pretty bad. The description is will identify and remove bureaucratic and permitting barriers. That's good. That drive up costs and slow housing construction and lease up, making it more affordable to build and easier to access housing across New York City. Again, the task force will be overseen by the same person. One of the easiest ways to access housing across New York City is to abolish all price controls, all rent controls. That would immediately, as it happened in Buenos Aires, will immediately free up a huge number of new apartments for rent and immediately lower rents and increase quality. Lower rents in some areas, increase quality because landlords would be incentivized to do what they need to do to make their apartments better, more livable, so they can then charge higher rents. All right. When asked about what his agenda is going to comprise, Mamdani basically said, all about affordability and abundance. Affordability and abundance. The problem is that most things relating to affordability, which in and of itself is probably an anti-concept, I don't think it means anything, but making things cheaper, anything that he does to make things cheaper is probably going to undermine his abundance agenda. And his abundance agenda is probably so statist that will actually undermine, guess what? Abundance, actual abundance. So anyway, I guess we'll have to wait and see what actually comes of all of this. But it does. The fact that he's using abundance terminology is a good thing. But in the name of bringing about the warmth of collectivism, one's wonders. It's more of an old Marxist kind of versus woke leftism. Woke lefts don't want abundance. They don't want progress. They don't want prosperity. They want you to be poor. They want equality above all. They're true egalitarians. The question is, what kind of leftist is Mamdani? And if he's a socialist rather than woke, that is better for certain things. That at least says that he's going to be focused on building and creating inefficiently, expensively, and maybe drive New York, bankrupt. But he's not going to be all focused on woke and all of that, racist and disruptive stuff. I'll also say, so the one other thing Mamdani did is he nullified, and the first day coming into office, he nullified all of the executive orders that Adams, the previous mayor of New York, had put into place from September 26, 2024 on. September 26, 2024 is the date in which Adams was indicted for corruption. Of course, that indictment went away thanks to Donald Trump, but he was indicted on September 26, 2024. So anything he did from September 2024 until the end of 2025, anything he did through an executive order, Mamdani wrote one executive order that wiped that all out. So we will see what all of that adds up to in the end. All right. What is this? All right. Let's see. Okay. So that's Mamdani. We will keep track. We will see what's going on and how it goes. He to get all his plans, get everything he wants done, he's going to have to significantly increase taxes. It'll be interesting to see if he can get away with that. We will see what a socialist can do at a city level versus at a state or federal level. We have a lot more levers of power. You can get a lot more done. So we will keep a track of it. I will keep you updated on it. A bad start in terms of what he said, a mixed start in terms of the actual executive orders, two of them, mildly positive, one of them horrible, really, really bad. Hard to tell where the balance will be. I think the balance will be on bad ultimately, because even the good ones will not actually be good, because it'll be too corrupt. There'll be too many special interests, too many anti-growth, too many anti-development groups within the left will have an influence on it. But we will keep track and check. Somebody says, the socialist who often posts on our chat says, we need a system that creates opportunities for everybody, not to create trillionaires. So capitalism is the system that creates opportunities for everybody. And it creates more opportunities for everybody than any other system. And partially the way it does that is by allowing for the creation of trillionaires, because it is trillionaires, of which there's zero right now, although, what's his name, Elon Musk is on the way. Trillionaires are the ones who create the jobs. Trillionaires are the ones who create the technology. Trillionaires are the ones who push us forward into the future. That's creating the millions and millions and millions and millions of opportunities for all the rest of us. Indeed, think about the opportunities that are going to be created by AI, and think about the billionaires that have made AI possible. It's not trickle-down economics. Capitalism is not trickle-down economics. It's waterfall economics. It's not that a few opportunities trickle down from the top. It's that basically all opportunities trickle down from the top. Jobs are created by entrepreneurs. They don't just exist. New industries are created by entrepreneurs. They don't just come about out of nowhere. Government doesn't create them. And even when government creates a technology, it takes an entrepreneur to turn it into something useful that creates opportunities. So opportunities, you want to maximize opportunities? Capitalism and socialism destroys opportunities. It disincentivizes people from creating jobs. It disincentivizes people from building, creating, making, changing, innovating. It not just disincentivizes, it penalizes people. It destroys opportunities. That's why every socialist country who takes their socialism seriously in all of human history has been a place of misery and poverty and drudgery and no opportunities. A place of death, of starvation. And yes, they didn't have billionaires. No billionaires. No billionaires. But they were all poor. And they were all hungry. So I don't believe in trickle down. I believe in waterfall down. Flood of opportunities created by the billionaires. And when they are, by the trillionaires, when we have some. Looking forward to that day. Yes, very excited about having trillionaires in our midst. So cool. Why is it the only government can spend trillions? Much more effective when individuals can spend trillions. Now, in capitalism, there might be fewer trillionaires. There might be fewer billionaires than the system we have today, which is rigged and corrupt, and there are all kinds of problems. But you don't fix the system by going after billionaires. You fix the system by eliminating the corruption, eliminating cronyism, eliminating favors, eliminating subsidies, eliminating government control over business. In other words, you free up the system. You embrace capitalism. That's the system that maximizes opportunities. So give me a break. Socialism is only destructive. All right, shifting gears. We are moving on. Iran. This is going to be a daily update for me, I think, or at least a very frequent update. Iran demonstrations are continuing all over Iran in a record number of cities. It appears, it's hard to tell, but the demonstrations today are as large as any of the large demonstrations that were in the past, where there was 2022 during the Girls' Revolution, or previous to that, when it was 2017 and 2007. These might be as large, if not larger. It is also true that at least in some of the smaller towns, and possibly also in Tehran, the regime has started shooting demonstrators. That is, we have seen the first casualties come out of Iran, the first numbers of casualties coming out of Iran. They are also arresting particularly students, not the shopkeepers. They're very careful about the shopkeepers, but they're arresting students, and they are putting them. You see arrests happening. So things are getting worse for the demonstrators in Iran, but it's getting out of control. Now, this is what Donald Trump had to say, and maybe if I could take this seriously, and if he was serious about what he's saying, then maybe this is one of the best things he has said in his, 5 years of presidency, first term and second term, I'm including. This is what he posted. If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Now, this is good. I support this. But two things. One, is there any reason to believe him? Any reason to believe him? So, for example, protesters are already being shot. People are already dying. Is the United States actually going to do something? Is doing something means that the United States will give Israel a green light to do something? Maybe, and maybe that will be the thing, and maybe that's a good thing. But is the United States really locked and loaded to go and do stuff? Is this for real? Does he mean it? So that's issue number one. Second, why? Why? Now, I know why I think they should do it. I've been advocating for war with Iran since 1979. So I've been advocating for war my entire adult life. I graduated from high school in 1979. And so since then, is Israel still have intelligence operatives in Iran? Capitalist Spy says, yeah, yeah, of course, lots. But, this, I've been advocating for war since Khomeini and since the Iranian regime basically took hostages, American hostages. That's an act of war. America should have responded with an act of war, not negotiations. So, but the question is, so I know why. Iran is a threat to the United States, has been since '79, engaged in a war activities against the United States consistently from 79 to this day. And the United States, as an act of self-defense, should take this opportunity to destroy the regime in Iran. But why does Donald Trump want to do it? Is this a return to the era of America's policeman of the world? I mean, they're shooting their own citizens. They're not shooting Americans. Why is this, according to Donald Trump's narrow view of American interest, MAGA, super narrow view of American interest, why is this in American interest? I mean, we just bombed ISIS in Nigeria to defend Christians, supposedly. Is that the new strategy? Are we now literally the policemen of the world going to go out there and every time a regime shoots up its own citizens, America's going to intervene? That can't be the case. So what is it? So I'm more in favor of it, and I, will congratulate Donald Trump if indeed the United States intervenes. People like Dave Smith, by the way, Dave Smith, the libertarian comedian, non-serious guy, is, flipping out over this. Flipping out. Like, there goes America intervening, fighting a war for Israel. I'm sure Tucker Carlson will have the same perspective. Going to war for the Israelis. Starting a war we don't need. What's the purpose of it? What's it for? And it would be good if Donald Trump could answer those questions. And sadly, he can't. But good. I mean, this is a war that the United States should have fought a long, long time ago. Better late than never. And maybe it's time to follow up the bombing of the nuclear facilities with the bombing of regime facilities that could indeed lead to the fall of the regime. Now, one of the things that's happened, and this is, worth noting, let me just, is that Israel, when it, during the 12-day war, Israel actually took out the primary bases in Tehran, the three main big bases of those units responsible for suppression of internal dissent. So the units of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard that would be out now in the streets suppressing this were actually taken out by the Israelis during the 12-day war. 3 locations, supposedly, and I have no way to verify this, hundreds, probably thousands of people dead, their infrastructure destroyed, the base is gone, the buildings are gone, the whole thing is gone. So it seems that that Israel has weakened the regime's hand in terms of their ability to actually oppress their own people in a significant way. This is why I think that if Israel had continued on a 12-day war, they could have actually brought down the regime, but they were stopped by Trump. But we're seeing probably right now, we're seeing that the regime is responding with less force and is having a problem. One of the problems they have is that this is now spread to 50 different cities. How do they control people in 50 different cities? They might not have the forces to do it. Now, I did see stories today, and I don't know if they're true, but I saw stories. It's hard to tell. You see so much news come across. It's very hard to verify these things, particularly when they come from the other side of the world. I saw stories saying that the Iranians were bringing in Arabs to help suppress. Now, they've done this in the past, but even there, Israel has limited the availability. They can't go get Syrians. They can't get Lebanese. I think they're probably getting people from the militias in Iraq to help them suppress. So the United States is locked and loaded. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. It would be interesting if Israel used this opportunity to further degrade Iran's ballistic missile program. I mean, Trump did say in his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu that Iran would face military strikes if they try to rebuild ballistic missiles or nuclear program that was destroyed. There's every evidence to suggest that they are, and getting help maybe from the Chinese, certainly from the Russians, in doing that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. As I said, people have already been killed. So by that standard, the United States should already have planes in the air bombing Iran. But so we'll see how serious Trump is about this. But yeah, one of, at least in intent, one of the more positive things. What's it going to take for this uprising to succeed? Really, I think three things. And there's a good article on this that Andrew Fox, who's a military commentator, who's very good on Gaza, very good in Iran, very good on the Middle East, he wrote this a while back during the 12-day war. But basically three criteria for regime collapse. One is mass civil unrest, widespread, sustained protests and chaos in the streets. That has to be kind of the beginning. This is already, as we're seeing, already happening. He mentions a general strike is important. That is happening. Protesters overrunning government buildings. Supposedly that's happening in some of the smaller cities. Large crowds gathering in Tehran's Azadi Square, which I think we're seeing. Protests would have to, would have to sustain this, and it has to grow. And it has to come from, across different parts of society. Not just shopkeepers, not just students, not just girls. It has to be wide, and it looks like it is. So, I think these demonstrations are emboldened by the 12-day war. They're emboldened by the weakness of the Iranian regime. They're emboldened by the fact that the regime is divided, and they're going for it. So that's one. Second condition. The security forces have to be fractured. The Iranian regime, basically survival hinges on the loyalties of its military organs, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the Basij militia, and the regular army. If any one of these sides with the demonstrators, it's all over for the regime. You could see mid-level commanders refusing orders to fire on crowds. You could see garrisons surrendering or deserting. Firefights between factions, IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard versus the army, as chain of command breaks down. You've got a lot of Islamic Revolutionary Guard commanders are gone. They were killed by the Israelis, so there's weakness at the top. That is going to be, we're going to have to see some kind of fracture. We're going to have to see some military units siding with the demonstrators. This is what happened in 79. In 79 Islamic Revolution, what happened was major military units, divisions even, openly switching sides and supporting the people. You would have to see here some generals coming out and saying, we're with the people. We're not with the regime anymore. Now, I think this is what the Shah's son, who's in exile in the United States, is trying to do, is communicating with leadership figures within the military, trying to get some of them to come to the side of the demonstrators. I don't think they're ready quite yet. The demonstrations are going to have to become even bigger. I think one of the reasons the regime is hesitating firing on the demonstrators is fear that if they kill a lot of people, that'll only increase the size of the demonstrations. And if they fire on people, they might give an opportunity for some military units to say no, to rebel. Finally, you need a psychological shock at the top. This is from Andrew Fox's blog. Authoritarian regimes often project an aura of invincibility. Shattering that illusion can trigger a rapid unraveling. In Iran's case, the sight or rumor of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei and his inner circle fleeing by plane to a foreign haven could be that shock. If the Supreme Leader is perceived to have given up or gone into hiding, it is game over for regime cohesion. Mid-level officials and clerics would begin defecting or disappearing, anticipating the regime's fall. The remaining loyalists might resort to desperate, vicious measures, but their morale would be in freefall. Each additional blow, be it the fall of a major city to protesters or a live broadcast of a prominent Ayatollah or Revolutionary Guard general announcing his resignation, would reinforce the collective sense that this is the end. We saw similar dynamics in other collapses. Once fear shifts sides, the regime that once terrified everyone suddenly finds itself the one frightened of its people. As we saw last year in Syria, psychological tipping points can be abrupt. One day a dictatorship seems securely entrenched. The next day it is melting away like ice in the sun. Now, whether we are there, whether this is the event, whether these demonstrations are it, I do not know. But it could be close. It could be that this is it. Anyway, I highly encourage you to follow Andrew Fox on Twitter. And he's got a Substack. And he's a really good source of information about these things. Whoa, we're way behind. God, got an hour, and we've only done 2 items. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 more. All right. I'll just say, Super Chat, we've raised more than 3 hours worth in 1 hour. So thank you. Thank you. Particular Skylar Saunders. Skylar, thank you. Skylar's done $500 in $100 increments. So thank you, Skylar. I'll get to your questions in a little bit. I really appreciate the support. I guess Skylar's doing... I don't think he was there on New Year's Eve, so he's doing his New Year's Eve today, which is great, starting off 2026 in phenomenal form. Thank you, guys. Andrew's there. Rational IP is there with $50 questions and a bunch of $20 questions, and you guys are just rocking. We're definitely going to go 3 hours today, or we're definitely going to exceed 2 hours with all these questions. Where have all these been pent up? God, what happened over the last day? So again, thank you, Skylar, and everybody else. All right, let's see. I'll just mention this. It's a complex story and a lengthy story, but Jack Smith, who is the special prosecutor appointed by the Justice Department to investigate Trump, to investigate Trump's incitement of January 6th riot. And Trump's handling of documents. Jack Smith's his transcripts. He I guess testified a full day of testimony on Capitol Hill. Hours and hours of content. Those testimonies have been released by special counsel Jack Smith. Jack Smith was like a career prosecutor, supposedly never lost a case, not particularly known for being partisan one way or the other. But anyway, the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee released on Wednesday a transcript and video of a closed-door interview Smith gave for about two investigations of Trump. And they're long. It's a day-long deposition, so there's hours of content here. I've seen some of the video, and it is unbelievably damning of Trump. Now, nothing here is new. What's new is the confidence with which Jack Smith describes what happens. His confidence that he could have prosecuted this case, his belief that there's no doubt of Trump's guilt. Now, you're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But according to Jack Smith, at least, he thought he had a robust, strong case. He also says that almost all the testimony against Trump came from associates of Trump, came from people, Republicans, came from just factual stuff of what they said under evidence and under oath. Even Giuliani, who contradicted most of what he said publicly under oath, contradicted himself, and many others who just testified about what was going on after the election leading up to January 12th. Here's one quote. This is from Jack Smith. The evidence here made clear that President Trump was by a large measure the most culpable and most responsible person in this conspiracy. These crimes, the crimes of trying to overturn an election, these crimes were committed for his benefit. The attack that happened at the Capitol, part of this case, does not happen without him. The other co-conspirators were doing this for his benefit. So in terms of why we would pursue a case against him, I entirely disagree with any characterization that our work was in any way meant to hamper him in the presidential election. This was meant as an act of justice. Now, the deposition was conducted privately, in spite of the fact that he requested to do it publicly. But they have released all of it. Now, they did release it New Year's Eve. I don't think accidentally, under the assumption that very few people would listen to it New Year's Eve. Smith repeatedly made clear that his belief that the evidence gathered against Trump was strong enough to sustain a conviction. Part of that was the extent, and I'm reading from a news article, was the extent to which it relied on the testimony of Trump allies and supporters who cooperated with the investigation. This is a quote from him. We had an elector in Pennsylvania who is a former congressman, who is going to be an elector for Donald Trump, who said that what they were trying to do was an attempt to overthrow the government and illegal. Our case, Smith continues, was built on, frankly, Republicans who put their allegiance to the country before the party. And he said these Republicans, even though it could mean trouble for them, these Republicans, their evidence was the most powerful evidence against Trump. When it comes to Capitol riot itself, the riot on January 6th, the evidence showed that Trump, quote, caused it and that he exploited it, and it was foreseeable to him, that he knew it was going to happen. If we continue, Trump made false statements to state legislatures, to his supporters in all sorts of contexts, and was aware in the days leading up to January 6th that his supporters were angry when he invited them and then directed them to the Capitol. Now, once they were at the Capitol, and once the attack on Capitol happened, he refused to stop it. He instead issued a tweet that, without question in my mind, endangered the lives of his own vice president. And when the violence was going on, he had to be pushed repeatedly by his staff members to do anything to quell it. I mean, we know this, but now it's coming out of somebody who investigated this. I think who should be accountable for this is Donald Trump. These records are people. In the case of senators, Donald Trump directed his co-conspirators to call these people to further delay the proceedings. He chose to do that. And again, it was all under Trump's guidance. Again, this is from Smith. What I recall was Meadows, Mike Meadows, stating, "I've never seen Jim Jordan scared of anything. And the fact that we were in this different situation now, where people were scared, really made it clear that what was going on in the Capitol could not be mistaken for anything other than what it was: a riot and an attempt to overturn an election. All right. So, pretty amazing. I mean, if you listen to the whole thing, there is a list of the co-conspirators that were flipping on Trump and that would have testified against him. Loyalists for Trump told Jack Smith, they repeatedly told Trump the election wasn't stolen. Loyalists to Trump planned to cooperate with Jack Smith in court. Smith said he didn't rule out indicting these co-conspirators. He said he would have gotten a conviction. He didn't think he had a doubt that he would get a conviction. He thinks that Trump is a criminal. When he was pushed about, isn't Trump saying the election was stolen just an issue of free speech? He said, no, free speech does not apply to fraud. And what Trump was trying to do was commit fraud. He was trying to gain something from this speech. He was trying to gain the overturning an election. That is fraud, and fraud is not protected speech. He said unequivocally that Trump attempted to overturn the 2020 election and to stop the peaceful transfer of power. He said he put the life of the vice president in jeopardy. Trump obstructed justice and their investigation personally. Trump willfully and with intent kept classified documents and showed them to people without clearance. This is the document case. Yeah, I mean, all these stories about Jack Smith tapping the phones of congressmen and all this other stuff, all bogus, all never happened, and he denies there was any intent for any of it to happen. It's quite an indictment. And again, as far as we know, Jack Smith is not particularly partisan. He's also was told by a judge, Cannon, that he couldn't talk in his deposition about the documents case. And he thought that was illegal, what she was doing. He didn't talk about much about the documents case. He mostly talked about the January 6th. But that's Judge Cannon, who was in Trump's pocket from the beginning of that whole procedure. So I don't know if anything's ever going to come of this. You can find clips of the videos. You can find the entire video if you want to watch the entire thing. It's hours long. But there are many, many clips out there. I've seen them on Twitter. And I mean, Smith comes across as unequivocal, straight shooter, and just tells it like it is, or at least tells it like he understands it. Trump is, and I said this when these indictments happened, the stuff in New York was stupid. Trying Trump and all these other charges was stupid. This was the real heart of it. It was January 6th, it was the documents, and it was Georgia, what happened in Georgia. That was what should have been pursued. And, you know, I hope some of this is pursued after he leaves office. I hope some of this would be pursued after he leaves office. And the attempt of the right, of the Republicans, to rewrite history is truly embarrassing and really unbelievable. And to make the January 6th anything but the riot and the riots and an attempt to overturn constitutional proceedings is thoroughly outrageous. And yeah, I mean, he should be locked up. If found guilty, if a jury of his peers finds him guilty of all that, he should be locked up. They should go through a process, a legal process, in order to achieve it. But there's no doubt in my mind that he is. For at least for the January 6th, trying to overturn the election, but also for the document case. I don't know what the penalty should be of the document case, probably not jail. But he should be found guilty for both of those, at least based on all the evidence I have seen. But that's not going to happen, and I'm going to get... my guess is I just lost an enormous number of subscribers who think I'm buying into left-wing Democratic Party far-left conspiracy theories. All right, what do we want to do now? Tariff flip-flop. Yeah, I was going to show you this. This is oops, why is it moved away like that? This is an editorial by the editorial staff of the Wall Street Journal, which I think is worth reading to you. I think this is another indictment of the whole punitive of the whole tariff thing. And I'm just gonna read you this thing. One of the striking contradictions of President Trump's tariffs is the way his chorus claims the rousing success, even as he carves out hundreds of exemptions. Rarely has a president worked so hard to cover the damage from his own policies without admitting it. The latest is his New Year's Eve retreat on new tariffs on unupholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities. His planned 30 to 50% levies will now be delayed a year, maintaining a still damaging 25% border tax. Mr. Trump has imposed the higher tariff in the name of national security. But apparently, the killer love seats aren't as dangerous as advertised. That's pretty good. Maybe you can now buy one without the fear of assault from a foreign spy. All right, so the writers on the Wall Street Journal are pretty good. The furniture reprieve is no doubt intended to limit price increases for consumers. Prices for living room furnishing rose 4.6% in November from a year earlier, which makes it harder for young families trying to buy new places to actually sit. The retreat is another in a string of policy reversals to mute the tariff harm to American consumers. First was the carve-out from his punitive tariffs on Chinese goods for smartphones and other consumer electronics. Then came the relief on bananas, coffee, beef, and many farm products. Behind the scenes at the Commerce Department, countless firms and industries are begging, this is the pressure politics of the mixed economy, are begging for their own exemptions. Are your chances better if you donated to the Trump campaigns? Question mark. You'd think the tariff cheerleaders would be embarrassed by these walkbacks, but they ignore them as they promise that the tariff golden age will soon arrive, at least for your next sofa. The golden age will have to wait until after the November elections. That's good writing, good, succinct, and true. But this is exactly it, right? I mean, the tariffs have done one thing well. They have achieved one goal completely. And that is that now every industry in America, every business person in America is beholden to Trump. Every one of them wants a meeting with Trump, wants to find a way to get relief from Trump, wants to find a way to get tariffs on his competitor and his reduced. This is, I've been a cash cow for Trump in terms of just plain old corruption. But this is so obviously cronyism and encouraging cronyism and supporting cronyism. And if your goal was to increase cronyism in America, you have succeeded 100%. It is amazing how well you have succeeded. If your goal was to actually encourage, I don't know, business in America, success in America, capitalism in America, I don't know, increase prosperity in America, then this has been a massive, unequivocal failure, and you know, it hasn't led to economic disaster. I predicted it wouldn't lead to economic disaster, but it's just dulled economic progress. It's taken an edge off. It's made it's made us stagnate. It encourages stagnation. All right, I saw this, I guess you call it meme. A meme published by, God, who published this? It's by the government, by our government, the U.S. government. No, I don't want to do that. Let me just, I saved the meme, but I didn't save who published it, and I want to actually include that because it was a government department. So let me just search this 1 second. Let's see if we can find it now. A few hours old. Huh. God. I'll show you the meme in the meantime. There it is. That's it. Isn't that beautiful? See what's written there in the middle? That beautiful statement. And what is written there? 1 second. I know how to find it. Well, this was published by Homeland Security, by DHS government. So the Department of Homeland Security, this is your tax money, funded this meme. This meme says, this is America, or America after 100 million deportations. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful coast, a wonderful 1950s looking car. This is somewhere in the coast of Florida, it looks like, with palm trees. And just beautiful. But think about what 100 million deportations mean. There are, I think, about 51 million foreign-born people living in America. Legal and illegal immigrants. Maybe 51. Maybe 60. I don't know. 51 is the number. Who are the other 49? Who are the other 49? So let's say we now deport every single foreign-born from America. Includes me, by the way. Includes some of you. So legal, illegal, we just deport them all. Then what? Then how do we figure out how to deport the next 49 million? Because they want to deport 100 million. This is your government speaking. Your government. About a third of the population they want to deport. So who are the other 49 million? Well, maybe people who don't like Trump, who disagree with Trump. Maybe people who have brown skin, who might have been born in America, but they still have brown skin. They're not heritage Americans. Although some people with brown skin are heritage Americans. There were, Hispanics in America from very early on. How about blacks? Maybe blacks who don't come from a slave family, but how do you do that? Maybe just all the blacks. What the hell? Why not? I mean, who are they thinking of deporting? Jews? That's not a lot of people. Maybe 6 million. 100 million. They have to get 100 million. Atheists? That's good. I like the atheists. Who else? Who else would you deport? I mean, this is insane, unequivocally evil. Evil. Almost a third of the population deporting. This is, I don't know, what adjectives do you want to give it? This is just horrific. This is Donald Trump's administration. This is, by some accounts, the best administration in American history, but, a great president, heroic president. And yet his administration is going out there, all out, saying they want to deport 100 million people. It really is insane. Now, they can't do it. They won't do it. This is just BS. But this is think of the mentality. Think of the fact that this is what they're putting out there. Here's some numbers. According to census, there are about 45.3 million foreign-born residents in the United States. That was of 2018. So maybe it's 50, 51 today. I mean, half of Silicon Valley is gone. Many of the CEOs of leading American corporations are gone. Some people in Congress are going to be gone. Some of us, me. I mean, it's hard to believe. This is a government account. A government account. This is MAGA projecting what they really think. Remember a long time ago, before the election, it was only illegal immigrants. We just hate illegal immigrants. It's not about immigration. We love immigrants. Immigrants are amazing. We just don't like illegal immigrants because they're illegal. You remember that illegal? It's all about the illegal immigrants. We don't want illegal immigrants in America because they broke the law. They shouldn't come here if they break the law. All right, I say, okay. So we gave them that. Well, some people gave them that. It's just illegal. And then once they got into power, they said, well, it's also some of the legal immigrants. Like if you're Indian, or if you're H-1B, there's some mystical evil thing about the H-1B. H-1Bs we don't like. And then Miller has basically said the golden age of America is when we had negative immigration. So let's go for negative immigration. So that means no legal immigrants, no net increase in legal immigration, no net legal immigration. So they started out with just illegal immigrants. Then they said, oh, no, it's all immigrants. We don't want immigration. We don't need immigrants. It's all about America first, Americans first. We don't want, send those Indians home. H-1Bs and everything else. And now they're saying it's not even about immigration, legal or illegal. It's about past immigration. It's about anybody who was born in a different place. And really what's behind it is it's about anybody who's not a heritage American, who doesn't have the right skin color, didn't fight in the right battles, didn't have ancestors who fought in the right battles. These people do not deserve to be leading the United States of America. They should emigrate to Russia or Venezuela. Stephen, I have the questions that you gave, and we'll do those first when we get to the questions here in a few minutes. I don't have your question from today. I just can't keep track of PayPal. It's better if you want to ask questions to do them live. I'll try to pull it up. I'll try to pull up the question from today if I can get PayPal. If I can get PayPal to cooperate. All right, let's see. Quickly, let's define two stories quickly. Oh, only one story. We're just left with one story. All right, inequality. I'll just mention this quickly. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. But Nature magazine, Nature, the science journal, published a paper that is worth reflecting on quickly, although it won't surprise those of you who've read my works in the past, particularly my book, Unequal is Unfair. According to a meta-analysis, this is a paper that analyzes many other papers. In this case, an analysis of 168 studies, covering more than 11 million people, looking at the effects of inequality on things like well-being, individual well-being, and mental health. So for over a decade, really a decade and a half, 15 years, we have been told by the Thomas Piketty's of the world that inequality is the main source of social ills. It's responsible for depression. It's responsible for Political tribalism. It is responsible for every ill, everything bad possible. Inequality of income and wealth is responsible. Well, it turns out that after looking at 168 different studies, this paper concludes that there is no reliable link between economic inequality and well-being or mental health. No relationship. Now, if you read my book, which you all should, if you haven't yet, you should read it now. My book on equal is unfair, then you would know this already. I am looking for Steven's question. You get one today on PayPal? I don't see one today. I don't see a Stephen Katz. Let's see, Katz, K-A-T-Z. I see two contributions and questions, I think, from 1231. I don't see anything today. One for $20 and one for $30. All right. Anyway, I will answer those two in a few minutes. All right, guys, that is the news for January 2nd, the first working day in January. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for all that. There's a ton of questions, which I will now turn to. I will turn to start with the questions that I got through PayPal on New Year's Eve and didn't get to answer. And I'll start with those. I'll start with Stevens and then Dan, and I have one from Nathan Smith. And then I'll get to the Super Chat questions for today. What else do I want to tell you? I want to remind you that there will be a show tomorrow, probably at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And as part of that show, I will review the two movies that you guys have paid me to review. Also, I wanted, what else did I want to remind you? Yeah, I want to remind you, let's make a big push this year in 2026 to dramatically increase the number of people supporting this show on a monthly basis. So please consider going to patreon.com, putting in Yaron Brook Show, and making a commitment, a monthly contribution to the show. You can do it at $2 all the way to $1,000. I need a few people to do it at $1,000. That would really help if you can afford it and you value the show enough. But anything, all of it matters. So it would be great if we could get at least 10 people every month joining in on Patreon. So those of you who don't watch live and don't do Super Chat, or even if you do Super Chat, this is a way to just get it regularly in the sequence. Also, those of you who listen who are not live, which is most people, 90% of the people who watch the show are not watching it live and therefore do not participate in the Super Chat. Most of those people, more than 50% of the people listening not live, don't contribute financially to the show. So what I'm urging you to is become a trader, value for value. I provide the show, that's the value I'm providing. You provide the funding, which is the way you trade with me. And you can do that on Patreon, on PayPal. You can do PayPal a one-time gift, or you can do a monthly. On Patreon, monthly contributions, incredibly valuable. I know the money's coming. I know how to plan. Super Chat, you never know. Today is an amazing day. Other days are tougher. But yeah, patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show. Become a monthly contributor at whatever level you can afford and you think is worth your while. It has to be selfish. Don't do it as a sacrifice. Do it because it's in your self-interest to trade with me, to be a trader. All right, let's jump in. With this. Let's start with Stephen Katz. What do you think of the result in the PGA Tour versus Martin? The Supreme Court found that the PGA Tour had to let him drive a golf cart in the PGA Tour events. Scalia wrote a scathing and funny dissent. We can only play federal platonic golf now, he said. Do you agree that games don't have any purpose? So there's no way to say that any rule is essential or not. So that the court should defer to the PGA. What do you think of the ADA? How did disabled people do before the ADA? So I reject the whole premise that it's any of the government's business how a private enterprise deals with disabled people. So I think the American Disability Act should have been ruled unconstitutional. It is intervening in private transactions where the government has no role to intervene. You don't have a right, because you're disabled, to get special treatment or to get any treatment. You don't have a right to be able to enter into any store that you desire to enter into. So look, there's no question. The ADA has made it easier for disabled people to act in the world out there. Yeah, it's done that. But at what cost? And who bore the cost? And they were coerced into doing it. So now, under capitalism, I think ultimately people would invest in facilities that make it possible for people to access, because it's in their self-interest to have more customers rather than less customers, more employees rather than less employees. But if a business wants to discriminate against disabled people, they have every right to do it. They're evil and wrong, but they have every right to do it. So objectivism, capitalism, laissez-faire capitalism, the ideology of laissez-faire capitalism holds that government intervention in such things is unwarranted, unjustified, unconstitutional, and immoral. It is the use of coercion to take from one group and give to the other. Why? Because one group is hurting and the other one looks like it has stuff. It's a massive redistribution of wealth from those who have to those who are disabled. And in that sense, it is wrong. And it's sometimes, by the way, the redistribution of wealth is from those who haven't to those who are disabled. If you're a small business and you couldn't afford to put in a ramp for whatever, for wheelchairs or whatever the act required you to do, you went out of business because you couldn't afford it. So I'm against the ADA. The PGA Tour, it's not the fact that it's a game. That has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that it's a private business. It's a fact that it's not the job of government to regulate private contractual relationships. It's none of the government's business, not because it's a game, again, because it's a non-government institution. Now, the government can decide that it's going to help disabled people access government facilities. That makes sense. It can impose on government departments what to do. It should not be able to impose anything on private companies. All right, second question for Stephen. How are you 100% sure that the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were 100% moral? What does it mean to be 100% moral anyway? Does it mean that your actions were the very best actions you could have taken in that context? No, it doesn't have to be the very best actions. It has to be actions that are consistent with your long-term rational self-interest. What was the long-term rational self-interest of the United States? The long-term rational self-interest of the United States was to end the war quickly, decisively, with minimal casualties to their own people. It's not the responsibility of the United States to care or to take into account the casualties on the enemy side. That's the enemy government's responsibility. The United States gave Japan the opportunity to surrender before the bombs were dropped. They gave the Japanese government the opportunity to surrender after one bomb was dropped. That's it. That's all. So dropping the bombs is moral because it served the necessary interests of the United States to win the war quickly, decisively, and with minimal casualties. That's all I have to know. Was there a better option? Maybe. But that doesn't make this option less moral. It just means there might have been a better option. I don't know what that would be. Again, minimal casualties to your own side. That's the only standard. There is no other standard. The standard cannot be how many casualties are caused on the other side. That's irrelevant. Should be irrelevant to your decision making. I know that makes me come out brutal and uncaring. Indeed, I think that bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was one of the most moral actions. Why? Because it rejected the standard of altruism. It rejected the idea that America should sacrifice its own troops to save Japanese civilians. That is altruism in war, and that is what I thoroughly reject. For every country, you do not sacrifice your own people to save the lives of enemies' people, even if they're civilians, even if they're innocents. They are the responsibility of their government, not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your people, including your soldiers. It means minimizing the danger that they face and maximizing the speed by which victory is attained so they can go home. That's it. If you're interested in this, if you want more clarity on this, check out Just War Theory versus America. I think that was the name of my essay. Just do Just War Theory, Yaron Brook on Google, and you will find it. It's on the Einman Institute website. Read that essay. It explains my whole theory around how to fight wars and why Hiroshima and Nagasaki are necessarily moral. Okay, Dan asked a couple of questions that didn't get answered. Yaron, you often downplay the good things Bibi does because other Israeli politicians would do the same thing. Don't you think that applies to FDR in World War II? For example, didn't everyone support total war and unconditional surrender? And surely other Poles wouldn't have appeased Stalin continually and excluded Patton from fighting. Have a good new year and thank you for all you do. I mean, look, no other president since has fought a total war. No other president since FDR has fought a total war. I mean, maybe Truman, but he was just continuing FDR. So I don't know that everyone supported total war. I don't know that everyone is supported. Now, maybe it's just my ignorance. Maybe in that period, indeed, any politician in power would have done the same thing as FDR, and he doesn't deserve credit for that. And it's possible. It's possible I give him too much credit for that. I admit that. And surely all the evil that FDR did on the economy and everything else, I mean, it's not wiped out by the fact that he was a good war president. And I certainly wouldn't have supported FDR, and I wouldn't have voted for FDR during the war, after the war, in the middle of the war. I wouldn't have voted for him, in spite of him being good on this. And yes, the sin of appeasing Stalin and not letting Patton fight and not taking Eastern Europe and all of that, that is a grave sin. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe I should be much harsher on FDR. Maybe I'll change my position. There's a lot of, that makes sense to me that I should be harsher on FDR, not softer on Bibi Netanyahu. This is a question Dan asked of Nikos, but we didn't get to it, or it was YouTube disappeared it. What's the difference between communism and Marxism? I assume Mamdani doesn't believe in dialectical materialism, etc. So he isn't a Marxist. Is it legit to call him a communist? Why do I not love your videos, Nikos? So communism is ultimately the political agenda of Marx. I think Marxism is broader than communism. So it's like, what's the difference between objectivism and capitalism? Capitalism is the political philosophy of objectivism. But objectivism is a broader philosophy that says a lot more than just a political. And I think that's true of Marx. Marx is not much broader. It's mostly political. But there's a lot of theory that he develops, wrongly, to justify his communism. That is not communism. It's the dialectical materialism and his theory of history and all of that leads to his theory of communism, but is not directly so. So I think the difference is Marxism is more broadly philosophical. Communism is a political philosophy. It's not a broad philosophy with an epistemology and a theory of history and a theory of morality and all of that. Now, Mamdani is not a full-blown Marxist, but he is influenced by Marx. He is much more of a Marxist in a sense of thinking of people in terms of classes than he is than a lot of the woke left is. The woke left, I don't think, are Marxist. Mamdani is more of a Marxist. He's not 100% a Marxist, but he is, and he's not a communist. That is, he does not believe in the dictatorship of the proletarian, as far as I can tell. He's a democratic socialist, which is almost a communist. But it's this delusion that you can have socialism with elections and with big elements of social freedom. Indeed, people like Mamdani, and I don't know Mamdani's specific views, but people like Mamdani often reject or are critical of Soviet communism and Maoist communism. So he is a committed socialist. Socialism is older than Marx. Socialism is more varied than Marx. It's built on a variety of different egalitarian doctrines. But Marx is definitely an influence on him, even though I don't know that you would call him a Marxist. I don't like using communist willy-nilly. Communists should be assigned to people who really believe in communism. There are people like that. And people who argue for democratic socialists are socialists. That's bad enough. It's bad enough. Socialism is bad enough. It's not like socialism, what's the big deal? No, that's bad. 21st century, to be a socialist is to be pretty evil. All right, Nathan also asked a question that didn't get answers New Year's Eve, so I want to cover this, and then we'll go to your super chat. Nathan says, all forms of taxation are wrong, but what are better forms of taxation and what are worse forms, and why? Well, I think fundamentally, you're right that all taxes are wrong. I think that there are a few kinds of taxes that are particularly bad. One, taxes that try to influence your specific behavior are bad because that is the government trying to be a social engineer, not just economically, but also socially. So it's an expansion of government power beyond so sin taxes, alcohol taxes, cigarette taxes are particularly evil taxes because they are taxes that try to adjust your behavior. Sugar taxes, all of those, evil taxes. Regressive taxes, taxes that penalize you for being successful. It's not just that you pay more taxes the more rich you are. You pay a higher percentage of your income as taxes the richer you are. Those are evil taxes. Those are wrong. So anything regressive. Taxes on corporations are particularly bad because corporations don't pay taxes. So these are taxes that are hidden and passed on to consumers and to employees. So hidden taxes are particularly bad. Taxes you don't feel anything when you pay them because they're just built in, are particularly bad. So corporate taxes, which is a hidden tax, other forms of hidden taxes, taxes that manipulate behavior or tax deductions that manipulate behavior. Not paying interest on mortgages is an example of a really evil manipulation of the tax code to manipulate your behavior away from rent and towards buying, which is completely unjustified. What else? Capital gains taxes, taxes on investment, double taxation, taxation of dividends. Dividends are taxed twice. So a lot of anything that's double taxation, anything that's taxes on investment, all of those are bad. Ideally, you would have one simple flat tax. It could be a flat, simple income tax that everybody pays, everybody, no exclusions, no deductions, nothing. 10% of whatever you make, I don't know, 5%, 3%, whatever it is, flat tax, or a flat consumption tax. I'd say those are the only, those are the least destructive and least immoral taxes. And a consumption tax is better than income tax because income tax is you're taxing work, you're taxing production, you're taxing, an essentially virtuous activity. Now, consumption is virtuous too, but to consume, you have to produce, so the production is primary. Taxing consumption is less damaging economically. So ideally, you replace all taxes, including property taxes and everything else, with a flat, simple consumption tax. All right, those are all the questions that I didn't answer New Year's Eve, so we can do away with those. Now let's turn to today's super chats, of which there are many. So it's going to be a while. Hang on there, guys. All right, we're going to do Skylar's $400 questions first, and then we'll do Rational IP and Andrew's $50 questions. So we'll start with Skylar, $100 start. What do you think is the greatest affront experienced by believers? Do you say you're an objectivist or atheist whenever you meet few theists you encounter? Well, it's completely dependent on the context, right? If the context is religion, if we're talking about religion, then I'm an atheist. Just to make clear that all the crap they're saying, I just don't believe, there's just no basis for, I think is just chatter that means nothing. If we're talking about more philosophical issues, or if we're talking about politics, or if we're talking about something that is related to a broader philosophical question, not to just religion and the existence of God, then I'm an objectivist. Then what you want to confront them with is a whole philosophy. I don't know what's a big affront. I mean, the problem is that they mostly don't know what objectivism is. And objectivism is, after all, implicitly atheistic. So, I mean, by very nature, atheistic. So you'd expect objectivism to be more of an affront because it combines atheism with a positive ideology that's anti-everything these people believe in. So I think that's the big affront, even if they knew what it was. Oh, what was the most important thing you learned in the Israeli army? God. I'd say I'll give you two things, in two different dimensions, I guess. One, at the personal level, I think I gained a lot of self-esteem in the army. I was good at what I did. This is in military intelligence, Tank Corps. I don't think I learned very much in the Tank Corps about anything. But in military intelligence, I learned about myself, that I was competent. I could get stuff done. I could get stuff done better pretty much anybody else, certainly anybody else in my unit, including people who were my commanding officers, significantly senior to me. When it came down to emergencies, when it came down to wars, when it came down to special operations, I was the guy who had to get it done. They froze. they were not that competent. I was more competent than any of them. And that was surprising to me. It still kind of surprises me. It surprises me. So I got a lot of, I guess, self-esteem from my time in the Army in a way that accelerated it, because if I'd gone to work somewhere, I would have ultimately discovered the same thing. It probably would have taken longer. And of course, work is never quite as intense as lives at stake, a war's going on, horrors are happening. You better do something about it. So the second thing I learned was that even the best army in the world, arguably, the Israeli military, is massively flawed and destructive and makes mistakes and mistakes that can be avoided. I saw what people's, what hierarchy can do, hierarchy that is not ultimately based on merit and not exposed to the marketplace, although you can't expose the military to the marketplace, so maybe this is just part of the military, but in a better society would not exist. How incompetent people can be, how really, really smart and senior people can be incredibly incompetent, and how that can result in the deaths of people. And yeah, I guess the things that remain with me are the times in which people did stuff that led to Israelis dying for no reason. And I was witness to it because of their own incompetence, because of, petty disagreements, petty arguments between people. All right, still with Skylar. Is there a paradox with consuming being before you produce? For example, reading a free book you found and then applying and integrating its content and improving your capacity to work. I mean, yeah, if you can get free stuff. But most stuff you can't get free. And indeed, even getting a free book you found. I mean, wait, on the street, where did you find it? I mean, sure, you can consume free food, you can consume free books, but you could argue that even the free book, somebody had to buy it and then leave it on the side of the street. Somebody had to produce in order to buy it. Of course, the book needed to be produced. So sure, you can find examples of people living without producing. But somebody had to produce. So, no, I don't think it's a paradox. It's the reality is that in an individual case, you can consume before you produce. Indeed, you do. As a child, you are consuming your entire childhood without having produced anything. And that consumption during your childhood is necessary for you to produce in the future. So there are these exceptions. But generally in life, in order to consume, you need to produce. Because books are typically not free. Typically, nothing is free, really. And you need to be able to produce in order to be able to benefit from those things and consume them. Hopefully that's clarifying. Last question from Skylar, at least at this level. Well, it is because he ran out of question money. You can't do more than 500 on YouTube. When is it rational to use a dictionary to point out the meaning of a word? Do only dictionaries printed during and before 1930s have credibility? No, I mean, I think that it's always rational to look at it to at least give you a sense of how it's typically used as a starting point to understand the meaning of a word. Dictionaries are very useful for that. Ayn Rand used them. Leonard Peikoff always used them. Yes, older dictionaries for more important words, more philosophical words, are going to be more valuable. There's less corruption. But new dictionaries give you a general sense of what the word means in the culture. And then you can say, is this definition right? Is it accurate? Is the way people are using it in the culture right? And then maybe you can investigate all the dictionaries. So I think dictionaries are very useful and should be used when you're trying to understand something. I often, during the show, will open up a dictionary and say, okay, what is that? What did that mean? Thank you, Skylar. Really appreciate the $500 today. That is amazing. We are doing really well with the Super Chat today, way over our goal, so appreciate it. All right, Rational IP. First of all, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. If society would rely on individual self-regulation, what concretely prevents evil ideas from scaling and overtaking civilization, especially in a full free market of education without any shared epistemic guidance? Well, nothing other than good ideas. How did we get to a fully free society, a society of individual self-regulating? How do we get to that society? We got to that society with good ideas. Can't have that society without good ideas first. Those good ideas, why would they not be taught in schools? Why would those good ideas not be prevalent? And in the face of bad ideas, good ideas win out fairly easily, particularly when they've, at least for a time, dominated. So the bad ideas would have to overcome good ideas to get into the free market of education. They'd have to appeal to people with something positive. So it's not clear to me, and there is no concrete way to prevent it other than ideas. You can't use force. You can't outlaw ideas. You can't do any of that. That's the essence of good ideas, is that you can't do that. So the only way to combat bad ideas is with good ideas. So the good ideas need to be constantly diligent about them and argue for them and debate them and argue against the evil. So what protects us from evil? Good. Nothing else can. Andrew, can you explain how, if one makes the primary philosophical choice between life and death and chooses life, that choice to live leads logically to the conclusion that altruism is wrong and egoism is right? Oh, God. I mean, it should be fairly simple. Once one makes the choice to live, well, who is to live? Me. So who should be the beneficiaries of the actions that I take? My life. I can't, right? And because if not, then if it's not benefiting my life, then it's hurting my life. There is no intermediary section. So placing the well-being of other people above my own is not taking the choice to life seriously. It's not really committed to that choice. It's abrogating that choice. It's saying, I've chosen to live, and now I'm going to undermine my life by living for other people. It's a logical and existential contradiction. And it gives you no guidance in terms of, it gives you contradictory drive, which most people have in their head. Contradictory ideas on how they should live. Sacrifice, oh, but I need to survive. Sacrifice, I need to thrive. I need to live. I want to live. As a human being, remember, she advocates for life as a human being, not just live as a biological entity, but as a human being. Now, the point about that is that to live as a human being requires effort. We know that the specific effort that it requires is thinking. You only have so much time, so much energy. I need to devote it to thinking about how to make my life better all the time. And now you want to divert my focus from how to make my life better to how to sacrifice to others, how to do something that goes against the very premise on which I'm working, which is life. It's just a contradiction if you understand what life is and what life requires. It requires action. It requires something. You don't have life automatically. Okay, Andrew, can you riff on this? Can you riff on this? Skepticism as automatic suspicion of intellectual certainty is a big mistake. One can be wrong and feign certainty, but certainly has a practical value to pursue, and one ought to feel secure in one's possession of knowledge. Yeah, I mean, it's really important to know what you know and to know whether you know it and how confident you are in that knowledge, because you're going to have to act on this knowledge. Is the knowledge so and I shouldn't be too, or is this, yeah, I know it was suddenly I should, move right ahead immediately. The extent to which you're confident in the knowledge is really, really important. Your survival depends on it. Skepticism, the idea, I can't never be certain, who knows? Well, but then you can't even be certain about the extent to which we know. Let's say there's something that you really are not certain about. I mean, a lot of our knowledge, you could call it probabilistic. A lot of what we know, it's like, I mean, there's a 80% chance of rain tomorrow. It's not 100%. I don't know what's certain, but there's an 80% chance. Well, if I'm skeptical, well, how do I know there's an 80% chance? Maybe it's 20. Maybe it's 50. I don't know. So what do I do? I don't know what to do, because I don't know what it's the probability of it rain tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to rain or not. I don't know how to plan. I don't know. It shuts you down. So the idea that you have standards of knowledge, certainty being the benchmark, right? I know it with certainty. But the fact that all other knowledge is, I have confidence in this knowledge based on these facts. That is the guide to our action. And skepticism undermines all of it. Doesn't just undermine certainty. It undermines every aspect of knowledge, because every aspect depends on you being certain about something. At least you should be certain about A is A. If you think about how knowledge rests one on top of the other. All right. Liam, if you've got a question, there's a super chat. You can ask it. I do not answer questions out of the super chat, out of the regular chat. Liam, is the bill in Congress to streamline permits and licensure there to make labor markets more dynamic for when AI takes off and causes disruptions? Workers displaced by AI will have an easier time finding new employment. I don't think that's the purpose of it. I think the purpose of it is part of a push by certain people within administration to reduce regulations. There is a push, particularly on energy and environment, to build, to get the country into a mode of building. And a lot of this permitting is to reduce and to streamline the ability to build. I don't think they're thinking. I don't think they're that thoughtful. I don't think they're thinking in advance to AI. I think they're just thinking about, we in America need to develop a better capacity, better capabilities, a building. I think that's the motivation. But it will make it easier for AI, because it'll make the economy more dynamic, more jobs created, and therefore, a landing pad for the AI, the people lose their jobs for AI. James says, a German commentator argued anti-Semitism is far greater in America than Germany at this point, because Germans are so aware of and trained to identify fascist propaganda, whereas Americans are falling for it hook, line, and sinker. I think that's absolutely right. I think there's a lot of anti-Semitism in Germany, but it's quiet. It's more on the ground. It's less expressed publicly, partially because there are laws that limit your ability to do that, and partially because, yes, there's a certain cultural rejection of it, and a sensitivity to fascist talking points, where America doesn't exist. America's virgin territory in that sense, and they're buying into it, absolutely. Jennifer. So when the New York mayor's policy create havoc, this time they will learn, right? Sometimes I feel like hope is all I have left. No, reason is all you have left. Forget about hope. I mean, no, they won't learn from it, but there might be a backlash against it. You might get a better mayor next time, just like there was a backlash to de Blasio. There might be a blast, or was there? I mean, this guy's going to be worse than de Blasio, so we'll see. I mean, maybe they'll buy into it. Maybe they'll want to live in poverty. You know, it partially depends on whether companies leave New York, billionaires leave New York, professionals leave New York. What people respond by leaving when things get out of hand. But they won't learn any principle from it. Even if they'll learn in this concrete, it doesn't work. Andrew, would you agree that ultimately right and left demand sacrifice from the strong to the weak, whether from rich to poor or working immigrants to native workers? Mamdani and Trump both want to be good Christian saviors. Yeah, absolutely. Basically everybody wants sacrifice. I mean, the middle, the non-left, non-right, just wants less sacrifice, but they still want sacrifice. Everybody is about sacrifice. Everybody's an altruist. Altruism is the dominant moral code in our culture, and everybody, to a lesser degree or a smaller degree, wants to sacrifice some groups to other groups based on their particular affinity. Not Your Average Algorithm, part 1. Okay, so two-part question. With transhumanism, we will be able to create artificial limbs and organs. Will we be able to regrow parts of the brain in a lab? Will someone with a brain injury be able to have their consciousness restored? What does this say about Objectivism's claim that consciousness is not physical? If consciousness can be restored through physically creating segments of a damaged brain. I don't think it implies anything about Objectivism, because Objectivism doesn't say necessarily it's some other thing. It says that it's not physical. It's not the brain. It's something that the brain creates. It's a manifestation of the brain, or at least that's one interpretation of Objectivism. It's the manifestation of brain activity, but it's not the brain activity itself. So there's clearly a relationship between our brain and consciousness. Our consciousness does not exist without our brain. So if you can break the brain and lose consciousness, well, maybe you can fix it and regain it. I don't see why not. I don't see why that contradicts Objectivism in any kind of way. Again, consciousness is not physical. It could be any more than, consciousness is not, it's a product of physical activity, but it's not physical in and of itself. There's no thing that is consciousness. Consciousness is an attribute of a well-functioning human brain. I mean, human consciousnesses. Andrew, not a primary critique, but altruism creates an arrogant, imperial, jerky attitude in those who accept it. There's a reason Rand referred to Katie, social worker, post-Tui influence as a frustrated little tyrant. Yes, but not in everybody, right? Because it can create, it can create all kinds of personalities. In some people, it definitely creates an arrogant imperial, particularly in people that have influence over other people. Altruism is builds resentment towards other people. I have to sacrifice my life for you? For those people? God, really? I hate that. And they rebel against it by loading off the people, over the people that they should be and they know they should be sacrificing to. Hopper Campbell, is individualism even rugged? Working remotely from my air-conditioned home office seems a lot more gentle than Soviet-style famines and purges. Collectivism forces you to be rugged by reverting man back into an animal. Yeah, I mean, it's not rugged. In America, the term developed out of the idea of going out into the wilderness and working. So I don't think rugged is inherently collectivistic or individualistic, right? You could be a farmer on your own private property in the Midwest in 1800s, and that's rugged. That's rugged. So rugged has nothing to do with collectivism or individualism. Individualism is just individualism. There's no qualifier. Rugged individualism came into being as a consequence of the experience of, I'd say, 19th century America, building businesses, building farms out in the wilderness in very difficult conditions, and standing up before those conditions. Yeah. Andrew, one thing I feared in embracing rationality fully was losing my sense of humor. For anyone else who struggles with this, embracing rationality fully won't devalue humor. It will lead to valuing taking life more seriously. Yeah, and humor is part of life, and it's fun, and so no, it doesn't do that to humor at all. You actually gain an appreciation for certain subtleties around humor. NM says, would a big Democratic win in November be seen as a Mamdani win? I mean, it depends what kind of candidates the Democrats field. To the extent that a lot of progressive, new left, far left, socialist types win, it will be attributed to the AOC and Mamdanis and Bernie Sanders of the world. To the extent that the Democrats who win are more centrist, it won't be. But yeah, I mean, I look, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is going to take credit wherever it can, and they will try certainly to take credit of a November win, and they're positioned to do so. But it will depend objectively on who the candidates are. Dr. X, what do you think about the attitude that the rich and the lucky get to pursue their dreams in this country, but everyone else is forced to live a dull life working for the man? Well, I think that's a dull life perspective. That is, what makes your life dull is you. You're responsible for the dullness of your life if it's dull. People make a living today in America at any level of income that is significantly higher than what it was in the past and significantly higher than what it is anywhere else in the world. And that income makes it possible for you to live a comfortable life. And that comfort is then a question of how you want to live it. So what kind of job you want? There are more jobs in America than anywhere else. And then what you do with that job. Do you take it seriously and make it into a career, or do you just check in and check out? Do you use that income to pursue real values, things that make your life better, or do you use the income to just buy beer and veg out in front of the television and have a dull life? But look, there's no question. Money buys you opportunities. Money makes accessing certain values possible. Money makes life easier, and money can make life more fun. But look, a lot of rich people live dull lives. They have no purpose, they have no meaning, they don't know what to do with themselves, they don't know what to do with their money, and they're depressed. And I know a lot of working class people who have exciting lives because they make them exciting. So the dullness of exciting is an issue of your personal values and what you do with the work, how you work it, how you approach your work, and then what you do with the money that you make from the work. Hopper Campbell, does Trump want his buddies in big business to succeed while small businesses are held down by tariffs? It's not that he wants them to succeed. They're in a position to grant him favors and give him money and support his businesses where small businesses can't. They're his buddies, they're his friends, they're the people he hangs out with, they're the people he invites to the White House, they're the people he considers himself one of them. He was never a small business. His father made sure of that. So he relates to them. He doesn't care about small and medium-sized businesses because he can't relate to them. And they don't give him anything. Andrew, from what ideas does Bernie Sanders derive his zeal for being against AI? Oh, the standard Luddite ideas, technology destroys jobs. I mean, these ideas have been around since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Technology destroys jobs. We need to focus on the workers. It's socialism of some type or another, not really Marxism, but socialism. Luddites have always existed. Of course, Luddites exist on the right as well. Not your average algorithm. You'd have to be crazy to look at the Super Chat army you've created and think you haven't changed a segment of the world already. Yeah, it's just, no insult to you guys. It's just a small segment. Not enough to impact yet the direction of humanity, I think. Maybe you are. Maybe it is big enough. But yes, no question. It's one mind at a time, and I've impacted a lot of one minds. Not your average algorithm. Everything will be all right in the end. It is not all right. It is not the end. Well, I don't know about that. When you're dead, everything is all right, I guess. Not so much. But the end will come one way or the other, whether it's all right or not. Harper Campbell, sadly, New Yorkers see Mamdani as an antidote to Trump. Trump consistently brings out the worst in the left and right. That's true. Absolutely true. And again, I said this during the election season. Trump brings out the worst. He will bring out the worst in the left. He will bring out the worst in the right. Trump has done unimaginable damage to the psyche of America and to its future politics, its future ability to thrive. And it's not through policies. It's through who he is and how he conducts himself. Clark, Mamdani's warmth of collectivism is as warm as a gulag in Siberia. Yes, very warm. I like numbers. Why the individualism to immigration? Mamdani wants open immigration in the name of collectivism, and his idea of globalization involves the Intifada. So first, at the end of the day, Mamdani does not approve of immigration. The left never really does. They as soon as the immigrants come and they take jobs from locals and wages in some areas decline, unions get really, really, really upset. The left turns against immigrants, always. So don't believe this idea that the left is pro-open immigration. They're not. Right now, they think open immigration pisses off the right, so they're pro it. They're pro-open immigration because it pisses off the right. And some of them might be pro-open immigration because of altruism. But if you're a politician, altruism, you have to think about who you're sacrificing. And if you're sacrificing your constituents, the people who vote for you, you're going to stop. And some of them are pro-open immigration because they think that these immigrants will ultimately vote for them. But as the 2020 election showed, that's not guaranteed. So it's not obvious that they want more immigrants. So, and whether they want immigrants who will vote for them might be from some countries, not from others. I don't believe he's pro-open immigration, ultimately. But the collectivism in the pro-open immigration is you've got to help the poor and the suffering around the world to bring them in. He doesn't know what an intifada is. I don't actually believe that he wants to globalize the intifada in terms of what that actually means. I don't think he's an Islamist. I don't think he's a Muslim Brotherhood type. He's a socialist who, is fairly secular and he doesn't believe in Sharia law. You can see by how many women he's appointed. He doesn't require them to cover their hair when they're appointed in his administration. He doesn't believe in Sharia law. He's a Muslim who's a leftist, and who's anti-Israel and ultimately anti-Jews, anti-Semitic. But he's fundamentally hates Israel. He'd like to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth. There's no question. Does he believe in Sharia law and globalizing the Intifada means Sharia law and Islam in its Islamist manifestation taking over the world? I don't think he believes that. I think that would hamper his style. I mean, he's a modern, hip leftist. Clark, as Iran deposes evil Islamic authoritarianism, the clueless of New York anoint one. He's not an Islamist. He's a Muslim, but he's not an Islamist. I mean, I hate Mamdani, everything he stands for. But let's be truthful about what he actually is. It doesn't do us good to exaggerate, blow out of proportion, and attribute something to him that is not real. He is not an Islamist. He's not Sharia law. He's not, for Islamic domination of the earth. That is not his agenda. His agenda is socialism, and that's a pretty leftist agenda, which is left. The left is not Islamist. Now, they might form a coalition with the Islamists to achieve particular goals, but they're not it. I think it's much more likely that the right, like Tucker Carlson, affiliate with Islamists than the left, because the right, as Tucker Carlson says, the Islamists on social issues are much more aligned with the right. And as Tucker Carlson says, what's so bad about Sharia law? They ban abortions. They put women in their place. I mean, Sharia law is fine. They don't, they stop criminals. So I think the left has a harder time with Sharia law than the right. Michael, New York was built by free individuals. Every skyscraper there was willed into existence by men who thought and worked to make it so. A culture that cheers their disposition deserves contempt. Yeah. I mean, those people who cheered Mamdani with his collectivism, really disgusting. Really, really, really disgusting. All right. Let's see. Steve-O. Hi, Yaron. Are you familiar with the Supreme Court's trend? They decided over 120 cases a year through 1993, now under 70. What do you think about that? Should they hear more cases? I don't know. I don't have an opinion. It's good to ask somebody like Larry Salzman that. I don't know. I mean, it seems like they should do more, but it's also important that they do it right. And 120 cases seems like a lot to do right. So much more important than how many cases they hear, it's the quality of their decisions. And we'll see in the next few days how good those decisions are. Michael, have governing philosophies of hate and force ever been sustainable long-term in our post-Enlightenment world? Well, I mean, North Korea has been going on for a long time. The Muslim world has been going on for a long time. I mean, Russia has just shifted from communism to a kind of fascism, but it still has a really bad governing philosophy, and that's been going on forever, right? So outside of the core Western countries, yes, even post-Enlightenment, there have been governing philosophies that have hate and force that have sustained long-term. Michael, 80% of millionaires in the U.S. inherited nothing. Is that not the case in Western Europe? The majority of millionaires come from old money passed down. Yes. Europe is different. Majority of millionaires in Europe, it's passed down. I mean, think about the kind of wealth that you accumulate in things like real estate over many, many, many generations, particularly over the last 200 years in places like Holland and England and France and Germany. I mean, a lot of the wealth is family wealth that's passed down. Michael, you said you wouldn't live in a cold place, even if there were no income tax. Would you live in a cold place if it was fully objectivist? Yes. Yes. Fully capitalist. I would live in a cold place if it was fully capitalist. Yes. Weather is not that big of a value, but given that the world is full of mixed places, weather is relatively high on the list. Steve-O, what's your favorite non-human animal? Cat or dog person, tiger or lion, or some other type of cat? Do you admire animals being selfish? No, because they're not selfish. They don't choose it. I like lions. I've always admired male lions, I guess. But really, I mean, once I saw a tiger in a zoo, tigers are more impressive. And they're more active. You know, male lions sit around a lot and do nothing. But lions and tigers are my favorites of the animals. They're ferocious. They're you know, just unbelievable specimens. I mean, when you see them live, man, they're impressive beings. I don't like cats and I don't like dogs. I mean, I don't not like them, but I'm not a cat person or a dog person. I don't have pets. I don't have any pets. I don't. Too much work, too much focus on something that doesn't give back enough. Yeah, so I'm not big on animals generally. I like watching them from afar. Abraham, I recently learned that Leonard Peikoff supported Trump on the last two elections. Who are other prominent objectivists who prefer MAGA over the left? Have you debated them on this topic? Yes, as far as I know, Leonard voted for Trump twice. Other objectivists, Andy Bernstein, Richard Salzman, and Dave Harriman. Have I debated them? No, I have no. I've debated Leonard privately, in private, one-on-one, but I haven't debated anybody publicly, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Steve-O, what do you think of people who always talk about how much they make and stuff they have? Greed is good, but at some point they must be a problem. Well, that's not greed. That's just showing off and being not proud, but what do you call it? Boastful, and you know it's. I think it's a sign of low self-esteem where they have to show how big they are, and how important they are, and how stronger they are, and how everything else. Yeah, I think that it's not an issue of greed. It's an issue of low self-esteem. Low self-esteem results in people boastful about stuff rather than just being proud or just being objective. Michael, are we still too young of a species for freedom? It appears that way. It certainly appears that way. It appears that you're going to have reason as man's basic means of survival. That needs to be integrated into man's experience much more thoroughly over the next few hundred years to achieve freedom. James, do you think Mamdani is just corrupt or is he evil? The chilling part is most people agree with him. They only disagree in application. The most consistent among them will win the end. I think he's bad. I think he's immoral, and you know how evil he is. We'll see, but it's. I don't think he's corrupt. I don't think it's about money. I think he's ideological. I think he holds evil ideas, and you have to judge a person based on his ideas at some point. And based on his ideas, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Liam. As the more notable intellectuals like Pinker start to interact with objectivists, they will begin to absorb that the damnation of selfishness is wrong. Or that's a question. As Richard Hanania has a lot of respect for Rand, if a big shot like Pinker starts to gain respect for Rand and starts writing about her, it could be a game changer. Look, I definitely think if Pinker became, sympathetic to objectivism and interested in objectivism, it could be a game changer. I mean, he has the stature and the following and the respect of people out there that could really change people's attitudes. So yes, I think could be big. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm skeptical about whether that's going to happen. Steven Pinker's older, and pretty solid in what he thinks and what he believes. He's an intellectual. Older intellectuals, very rarely change their minds about fundamental things. And the differences between Pinker and objectivism are pretty fundamental. And I don't expect him to suddenly have a change of heart. He might be a little bit more sympathetic. He might find it interesting. And all of that is good. And all of that is helpful. It's not a game changer, but it's helpful. I think Richard Hanania being more sympathetic to Rand is helpful for now, as long as Richard Hanania doesn't go off and become crazy, which he was in his past. So it's possible for the future. Crazy, I mean, is bad, goes bad. So we'll see what happens with Pinker. It's going to be interesting. But I don't have huge expectations about him changing. Significant ways. Maybe at the margin changing and being more respectful, which would be good. I mean, it would be good if he didn't misrepresent her views in the things he wrote and when he does interviews. That would be a positive change. John says, ironic that Homeland used a foreign artist for their meme. Hiroshi Nagai. Yeah, not ironic. I mean, they're so dumb over there, it doesn't surprise me at all. Capitalist Spy says, keep up the good work. Love your shows. Thank you, Capitalist Spy. Abraham, I'm curious to know your views on civil rights movement. If the government should not prevent discrimination against disabilities, why should it prevent any forms of discrimination? It shouldn't. So I'm a huge supporter of the civil rights movement. I think it was absolutely right and a good cause that then took a really bad turn. The bad turn was the government dictating whether private individuals can discriminate or not. The civil rights movement should have focused on government discrimination and morally on private discrimination, but politically on government discrimination. Getting rid of the Jim Crow laws, getting rid of redlining by government entities, getting rid of all of that should have been the project. And shaming, ridiculing, philosophically and morally objecting to private discrimination, all of that should have happened. But the law that says that a private business cannot discriminate is an evil law. It's wrong. It's destructive. And ultimately leads to resurrection in racism, which is what happened, what Ayn Rand said would happen, predicted would happen, and what's happening now. So affirmative action in all its different forms. You should be able to discriminate against gays and against Jews and against blacks, against anybody, as an individual, as a private business. That's what freedom means. As a government, you shouldn't be able to. And I should be free to boycott your business if you discriminate. If you have a sign outside your window saying no blacks allowed, I will not only boycott your store, but I will organize regular demonstrations in front of your store to let everybody know that you are a racist bigot who nobody should trade with. But it's not the government's business. So, Yaron Brook, I'm radical. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a little bit more freedom. I'm for freedom. Freedom means it's none of the government's business what I do, as long as I'm not infringing on somebody else's rights. Nobody has a right to buy stuff in my store. I get to decide who buys and who doesn't buy in my store. So I have a right to discriminate. Just think about your home. You have a right to choose, to decide who can enter your home and who not. Why is a store different than a home? It's not. Jamie from Canada. I agree with tax funds to Ukraine to fight Russia. But some people say you should send your own money and not tax dollars that I pay into. Do you think that's correct morally? Should the federal government be sending money? Look, if we lived in a rational society, if we lived with a government that limited its activities to protecting the individual rights of Americans, and that used its military only in defense of the lives and property of Americans, then it's quite likely that for self-defense reasons, defending Ukraine would mean spending very little money. It might mean that. And that the burden to protect Ukraine would fall on American citizens who want to support Ukraine by sending Ukraine money. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world in which we get taxed 50, 60%. We live in a world in which our government has troops in 120-something countries in the world. We live in a world where our military is used for all kinds of things that have nothing to do with securing the rights of Americans. We live in a world in which we're bombing boats and every one of those bombs costs thousands, if not millions of dollars. We live in a world that is not guided by any of those principles. And where we as individuals, I'd like to live in a world where the government doesn't provide welfare. And if you want to help people, you help them directly. We don't live in that world. So in this world in which we live, and by the way, we are members of NATO. I think in a completely objectivist world, in a capitalist world, we wouldn't be members of NATO. Which means we have to come to the defense of Europe. Which means that if Putin is successful in Ukraine, he will then attack Europe and will be engaged in a war. So we have a strong motivation not to get to that point, which is why we should fund Ukraine. But in a world where we as individuals are being taxed to death and our government is doing a gazillion things, of all the things the government is doing, funding the Ukrainian war seems one of the most reasonable. So if I'm going to object to the government sending money to Ukraine, there's like 100,000 programs that the government spends money on that are more objectionable. The Ukraine money is going for a good cause. It's going ultimately for an American interest to stop an explicit enemy of the United States. It's going to prevent the potential of actually having to put American troops in danger if there's a war with NATO. There are lots of reasons why this is a war, why Ukraine's war is in our interest for Ukraine to win. So fund it. Now, yes, in an ideal world, I would encourage Americans to send money to Ukraine. Less so the government. In this world, no. The government should do it. And if you object, I want to see the 100 other things that you also object the government doing that are much more offensive than this. Huh. Something's wrong with this clicker. Oh, come on. Okay. Kubadaya, a reminder for you to check with AOI if cheap Rand books on Kindle are legally approved or not. I'm pretty sure they are, but I will check. Jacob, I joined late. Did you see my email regarding PayPal? Maybe just an email reply if you don't want to discuss on stream as it is personal. I need to find the questions you asked, and then I'll see if I want to do it live. I haven't had a chance to find them and get them. If I don't do it via email, I'll do it on the show on tomorrow or Monday. Probably tomorrow. But I need to find it first. Thanks, Jacob. Andrew, is the morality reflected in the David and Goliath story overall good in the sense of man's reason being more powerful than brutality? Yes. I mean, the idea that it's not about physical size and physical strength. It's about technique and ability and one's mind. So even a brave, young, small person can beat a big giant. So yes, it's a good story. Andrew, is it rational to enjoy certainty? Yes. I wonder if it disallowing oneself to focus on and enjoy the creation of firm knowledge in one's mind is in repressed individuals weakens a man's motivation to seek new knowledge thoughts. Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. I certainly, if you broaden it to knowledge, not just certainty, but all knowledge, that's true. There's definitely a pleasure and a joy in knowing stuff and in discovering new knowledge and learning something new. I mean, I read a book where I learned something I didn't know before. That's fun. That is so much fun. I really, really, really enjoy that. And that comes from this discovery of new knowledge and embracing new knowledge and knowing what knowledge means to your life and its importance and all of that. So yeah, and if you don't do that, and part of the rejecting certainty, well, how do I know that this book is right? Maybe it's not true. Maybe he's wrong. Everything, how does he know? Nothing is right. Nothing is true. Yeah, you undermine any kind of enjoyment you get from knowledge. Blaze Guitar Lessons. How bad is Trump economically versus Karl Marx? Well, I mean, he's not as bad as Karl Marx. I mean, very few are. Karl Marx is worse. But then again, there's almost nobody in the world today outside of North Korea who actually advocates for what Karl Marx advocates. I mean, politically and in a position of power. I mean, Karl Marx is about as bad as it gets. I mean, how many people are out there advocating for nationalizing all industries, doing away with all private property? Just nobody does, other than North Korea. Even in Cuba, the rhetoric has been mellowed over the years. All right, everybody. Thank you. Terrific fundraising start for the year. Terrific Super Chat start for the year. We got, I didn't thank the stickers. There's a bunch of good stickers, I think, early on. Let me go to the top. I think there were a bunch of good stickers. Yeah, Jonathan Honing was there with the sticker, and Roland was there with the sticker, and Skylar did one sticker. That's how we got to 500, and Ollie had a sticker. So thank you guys, and Mary Aline, and Darlene, and who else? I think that might be it. But yeah, thank you guys. Really, really appreciate the support today. It's a great way to start the year with over $1,000 in Super Chat. Yeah, looking forward to an exciting 2026 and launching some new project. We'll do an OPA study group. I'm starting to think about how to make that happen and how to make that work. And of course, we'll be doing our regular shows, news shows on a regular basis and everything else. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody, and thank you.